Hello, this is Peter and from The Burning Question, and I'm joined here today by Antti Vihavainen from Puro. He's a co-founder there. And today we're going to be talking about his platform and some of the success they've seen working with corporate partners to boost the demand for biochar as an offset. Welcome to the show, Antti. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Peter, for the invitation. It's really interesting to have this discussion.
So why don't you just, for those who are not yet aware, tell us a little bit about Puro. Where did you guys come from, and kind of what stage are you currently at?
Yeah, well, we are a standard. We created a standard for carbon removal. We've wanted it to be a multi-methodology standard, so that the different ways of sequestering carbon dioxide would be competing with each other for efficiency, so that the buyer would always get the best bang for the buck. So we run the registry where the certificates live, and we consider also to be a innovation platform. So because we're not just for biochar or for any particular technology or method, we're open for other methodologies as well, and in addition to that, we're also a transaction platform. And we've been around since August 2018, or we started full-time operation in 2018, and we've traded since May 2019, and we actually put this marketplace, we sort of started from scratch in March 2019, and together with 22 other companies, we had it up and running, including all the rules and methodologies, the technical infrastructure, the verification framework, the auction platform, all the way in 71 days.
Whoa. Amazing. And so, from what I understand, you guys are in Finland. Is your focus in Europe, and how does the verification work that you do fit on top of existing certificates like the European biochar certificate, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, we try to, reinvent the wheel as little as possible.
Yeah.
So whenever there's any existing structure that we can use, or knowledge, or whatever, we'll try to make use of that. That same applies to greenhouse gas protocol, the life cycle assessment stuff, as well as the European biochar certification. They provide a good standard, quality standard that we can base some of the analysis on. So the suppliers that are already verified or audited by EBC, it's pretty straightforward for them to become part of our ecosystem. But we're not sort of only in Europe. As a matter of fact, if we look at our supplier pipeline at the moment, I would say that 1/3 of it, at least, or even more, is from North America.
Oh, wow.
So
and
a lot of activity there.
The rest of the world is coming online, or not really?
Well, yeah. So certainly, Europe is we started in Scandinavia, so we have plenty of activity here. The rest of Europe, especially the German-speaking areas, are pretty active, as well as then Australia, especially in terms of biochar. There's a lot bubbling there down under.
Yeah, yeah. I had Peter Burgess of Rainbow Beater on earlier, and they were part of what was kind of, at least from the outside, looked kind of like a landmark purchase from some of the major corporate, I guess they're not really foundations, but corporate companies looking to get into climate, like from Shopify, Stripe, Microsoft,
that's right.
etc. So can you just, from just a basic transactional basis, on a basic transactional basis, what kind of volume are you seeing on, say, a quarterly basis, and what kind of prices are you seeing?
Well, at the moment we are sort of in the tens of kilotons in terms of supply, but we should be closer to 100 kilotons hopefully by the end of the year, or early next year. And then the idea is to triple that volume every year
So
until
when you say
we
10
reach
kilotons, is that over, like, are those sold over a year, or is those sold over a quarter?
this year, I mean.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So and yeah, so and we should be reaching hopefully megaton scale quite quickly. Yeah, so there are multiple factors that enable us to scale to that extent. So we're not reliant on any one methodology, so to say.
And then pricing, is it a floating price in which the suppliers like float with you guys, and then people choose? How is the market pricing dynamic work?
Well, we started out with the right way of doing it, which was running an auction where price and the demand and supply determined the price. And we ran 7 auctions, and we were quite delighted to see that the weighted average price of these auctions turned out to be between 20 and 30 euros per ton, which is a reasonable price, I would say. And we had 2 different iterations from the auction process, but the latter one worked well in terms of there were no, let's say, mismatches to the extent we were able to push through most of the volume that was there. But both the buyers and the sellers were saying that it's pretty cumbersome. So we actually now use a supplier listing type of an approach, where they, based on the experience and the reference prices that we learned during these auctions, they can just name a price. They can they are displayed on our website, and they can say, okay, my ton of carbon removal is worth this much, and somebody else can say it's a little bit more or less. And if they are not trading, they can alter their price freely.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And I guess in terms of the rest of the market, there kind of a proliferation of negative emissions, or at least offset platforms. How are you guys different, and how are you guys looking to distinguish yourself?
Well, we are only about carbon removal. That's, I think, number one. But one thing that probably distinguishes us from many others is that we did not start this with any particular process in mind. We, the symptom. When your tool is a hammer, then all the problems look like nails. So we actually started with a tabula rasa. So we just said that, okay, let's, we had a long list of around 20 different methodology candidates that we felt that could be, carbon net negative. And when we started learning about them, we also started to apply our criteria, which was also developed along the way. And then the main driving, say, guidance was that we'll try to find the least disputable ways of sequestering carbon dioxide, because we are industry outsiders. We just wanted to find with science-based
a way to solve the problem.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, we had 3 biochar, carbonated building elements, and wooden building elements. But of course, we continue to develop those further, so that there will be others coming along shortly. So I think that's the criteria that we had. We felt that is important, is that the quantification is done by measuring and not by modeling. That the process leaves a data trail that enables verification afterwards by a third party, that the permanence is sufficiently long, and that the process is scalable in a way that if there's demand, there's also possibility to actually start producing a lot of that stuff. And biochar and these other 2 fulfilled that criteria.
Cool. So what's the breakdown as of right now? I mean, obviously, I've been coming to you because of my interest in a biochar as a potential way to fight climate change or draw down carbon. But I think I have very much come from the same place, right? I'm like, okay, well, we've got to solve this problem. How do we do it? What are when you look at your platform and the offsets that you're being able to sell, how does it break down? It's like biochar, you said wood products, and then embodied carbon, or what was the last piece?
Well, yeah, carbonate building elements and wooden building elements. I actually just so the carbonate building elements is very, very small at the moment, because there's not really that much supply at the moment in the world. But let's say biochar is probably quarter, and the rest is wooden building elements in different forms.
Cool. So the majority of your platform is actually of the offsets sold are actually about building elements.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. All right. Well, so switching gears a little bit, I've known about you guys for a little while, but it feels like there has been a recent surge from corporate climate interest in both the work you're doing and the field generally. What's that been like? How have you guys managed that? Has that been something that you've been, fostering behind the scenes for years without us knowing? Like, what's that been like?
I've been in situations like this before in my career. When there is no market, and I've been speaking in various seminars for people who did not understand what I was saying. So this took place in telecommunication sectors and cybersecurity and all that stuff. So and then suddenly there's a surge of interest and a lot of commitments. So this is not an unusual process. But in the first couple of years of enthusiasm, I think there's a lot of confusion among the let's say the people who want to make use of that new stuff. And I think this is the way it is also here. One of the, let's say, more frustrating things is that there's always a delay between the talk and the action. So
nobody just started sending millions of dollars of purchases to your platform.
And it always makes me wonder, how is it that these companies are making these pledges without really knowing what does it mean. They don't really have a good plan to actually reach net zero. Right. And I think it would be useful to get a little bit more information about the potential solutions before making those commitments. If I was the shareholder of some of these companies, I would be slightly worried. But fear not, there are ways of doing it, and we'll be helping these companies, and so are our peers. The first thing, of course, is to actually start reducing your emissions and use that as the primary tool, and then secondarily these compensation mechanisms. But one thing that I would like to say is that now that there's been this talk going on for a year, and the first sort of purchases are being published now, it's quite certain that they will be during the next year. We're going to sort of transform from demand constraint business to supply constraint business.
Right.
And that means that it's good to start early. It's good to start buying as early as possible, even with a small portion of the portfolio of actions. But send a message to the suppliers of negative emissions that what they are doing is good, and it's worthwhile, and somebody's willing to pay for that, and do it now. And and then you can change the let's say the ratio, or how much of the portfolio consists of various different methods and so forth, as you learn along the way. But I think it would be stupid to wait until 2025 when your commitment deadline is there, and then expect to have hundreds of thousands of tons of negative emissions supply available.
That makes a ton of sense to me. And where do you think we are now, right? I mean, are we in a place where the suppliers are going to be able to get capitalized fast enough to catch up with demand, or is it sounds like you've seen this happen in a couple different markets.
Yeah, but it's different
now. Yeah,
it's different in software, and in technology. Yeah. You put more money, you get a lot of results quite soon.
Right.
Here, it takes time, and I think you touched a very good point. You don't need to have a $50 million funding to create a new piece of software. Here you do need to have, let's say $2 to $10 to $50 million to create a new facility that actually sequesters carbon dioxide. And there's a shortage of that capital. Again, a lot of talk, but very little action. So I think it's fair to say that there are numerous organizations that want to help these suppliers to get suppliers of negative emissions to be funded, to be able to build the next generation or next order of magnitude bigger facility for them.
Right. Well, so I mean, I guess where are we now, and when do you expect the switch to flip from demand constrained to supply constrained?
I would say that within the next 6 months.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that's interesting. So that does that come from your experience? Do you think that demand is going to come from corporate climate offset, or you think that'll come from public, or will that come later?
I would say that it's primarily these corporates that are going to do a lot of purchases and high profile publishing of their purchases. I've just spent 3 hours with some of the biggest cities in Finland, and they are now in their starting, let's say, positions where they are starting to figure out what to do with this. It may very well be that in other parts of the world they are far ahead, Finland, but there's just one city that promises that they will be, by the time they are 800 years old, which is 2029, they will be carbon neutral, and now they've started to really start putting some thought into it, how to actually accomplish that.
Right. There's it seems like if this current momentum continues, it looks like there's going to be a moment of the Elon Musk's manufacturing hell moment ahead in short order. All right. So then, just from a view of your platform, and just kind of less from an industry standpoint, but about Puro, what's working really well, what are some challenges, and then kind of what's the next big step for you guys?
Yeah. Well, some of the challenges are definitely with auditing. So a bottleneck for us is to be able to get the supply or auditors to be on site and make these audits. Partly because there's this COVID, restrictions, travel restrictions that is causing a lot of let's say delays. So I think auditors are not the most sort of lean and agile types of
That's
companies.
Not the selected for characteristics.
So which is
it's
admirable.
Good. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But at the moment we would need some action. And so we've got a huge pipeline of suppliers that would need to be audited in the near term, and so that's something that we are adding that capacity as we speak. And then, yeah, so we are planning a spin-off from our parent company
Cool.
at the moment. And that means that we will be more of an independent legal entity.
Yeah.
And then we are looking at a new methodology to be launched, the fourth methodology to be launched by the end of this year, hopefully sooner.
Amazing. Can you tell us what it is, or is that like hush hush for now?
No, we have been talking about it. So it's yeah. So I have a telecommunications background, so I named it GSM. So
Okay.
it's
Not great for SEO, but I like it.
geological storage methodology.
Oh, cool. Uh-huh.
So which means that regardless of how the CO2 is captured,
Mhm.
just as long as it is biogenic, if the storage is a geological formation, then that qualifies as a way to sequester carbon dioxide within our framework.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to checking back in on that. Do you have anything else that we missed that you want to bring up before we close up here? And then I will ask a personal favor, which is, can we see your dog?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Dog is wanted to join me here.
Yeah.
So I mean, well, I consider what the question
There
might
we
be.
are.
There's my
Yeah.
dog.
Yes.
There you are.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It's sort of autumn time here, so there's a lot of leaves on the floor and everything. But yeah, so no, I think you've covered it very well. You know, whoever listens to this, if you produce biochar, please do contact Puro.earth. We'd love to have a chat with you. We have certain, quite strict requirements for the production. We need to make sure that it is carbon net negative indeed. And but if you have the evidence, we'll be happy to
Amazing.
welcome you into our ecosystem.
And they can go to your website and find that information, or maybe you can send me the email that they should reach out to. I'll post it along with the video.
I'll do that. Yeah, perfectly fine.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's exciting to see the platform grow, and the best of luck over the coming months.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Best of luck to you too.
Take care.
Bye bye.